goes wild. Okay, so I know this whole series I've been like, oh, don't worry, there's stuff we can do. It's probably time I showed my hand, isn't it? But first, if you're new here, I'm Mika, this is Boba, and I make videos on youtube.com about politics, philosophy and neurodiversity, all from a leftist autistic perspective. If these things are things what you like, then there are all kinds of engagements you can do. For example, pressing a subscribe or doing a like. Welcome to the concluding part of my 5-part series on alienation and identity. You can find parts 1 through 4 linked in the description, but for those of you already up to speed, let's have a quick breakdown of what it is I'm going on about. My argument can be summarised as follows. If we accept the work of Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, and I'm not seeing anyone disproving it, then 1. Our affect and learned concepts determine our actions and mental activity through neurological wiring. 2. The concepts we hold, with which our brain makes sense of affect and wires itself, are being manipulated both by benign environmental factors and purposefully by bad actors. 3. We are being alienated from which concepts we can access and therefore hold. 4. Being alienated from control over our concepts necessarily means being alienated from our aspects of self. Chapter 1. Concepts. I've spoken about loads of alienating consequences of capitalism in this series, but if you take just one thing away from my work these past months, I'd like that to be the importance of concepts. How we feel, how we perceive the world around us, and therefore how we act within the world is determined by the concepts we hold. So far, I've used this fact to support my arguments about how alienated we are, but 2 can play at that game. Now, leftist viewers, maybe sit on your hands lest you unsubscribe prematurely, and ready yourself, for I'm about to make an argument from personal responsibility. Dr. Barrett reckons that there are 3 ways in which individuals are responsible. Number 1, over one's behaviour in any given moment. Number 2, over one's predictions. And 3, over the concepts one holds. But her own words suggest that it's the 3rd one what's the most important.
Every human being is the sum of their concepts, which become predictions, which drive behaviours.
Dr. Barrett's work is focused on emotions, and as a part of it she stresses the importance of achieving emotional granularity, which is when you learn about lots of different types of emotions, nuanced ones, specific ones, weird ones. Germans are good at this. I like Fremdscham, which is when you see someone doing something cringe and you feel embarrassed on their behalf, or vicarious embarrassment, as we have to say. Fremdscham just hits better, doesn't it? Well, along the same lines as emotional granularity, we have conceptual granularity, which means, more concepts, please. Education. It's good. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I mean, but it also means that we have to do a bit of a Descartes every now and then. I bought this copy of a discourse on method in a charity shop in Galway, and someone already wrote notes, and you can tell that they bought it for his proof of the existence of God, because in it they've actually written he exists! 3 exclamation marks! Proved with facts and logic. But no, I don't mean we need to try and prove the existence of God. René Descartes is famous for his I think, therefore I am. And that was Descartes trying to find one indubitable, undoubtable truth for reasons. I am being the truth he came up with. There's issues with his argument and methods, which we can't really get into today, but the way in which he went about trying to find this truth was to examine each thing he new, in turn, to see how it held up to some proper skeptical scrutiny. I'm not suggesting we go full Descartes, but that act of examining long-held concepts, seeing if they still vibe, that's probably good. Marie Kondo would have been a more relevant analogy. We should Marie Kondo our concepts. Oh, where was I? Marie Kondo, of course. And as well as doing a Descartes and a Marie Kondo on our concepts, we should also be coming up with new ones. You see, I get the feeling that there's some people out there who see it as a waste of time trying to force new ideas onto people. That we should be focusing on organising and doing a revolution. The working class don't have time to be learning about gender spectrums and neurodiversity. And by keeping going on about it, you're just wasting time and losing support from people who have real concerns. But look, if we are going to mobilise people who have stressful, busy lives, we're going to have to change some minds on some pretty fundamental stuff. We basically are going to have to reconceptualise most aspects of life. We have to stop people perceiving the world around them according to capitalist principles. And so we gotta get granular. Remember that our concepts determine our perception, our understanding, our emotions, and our behaviour. Did you know that reading fiction has been shown to increase empathy, political engagement, and healthy coping mechanisms? There's even whole therapies based on that. Bibliotherapy it's called, look it up. But this is why representation in media is so crucial. It's important both for those being represented and for the rest of the audience. And media is a fantastic way to spread new concepts. So if there are leftists spending all their time trying to get more LGBTQ+, people of colour, neurodivergent, ethnic groups, disabled people into media, they're not wasting time which could otherwise be spent on community organising. They're doing important work which will make community organising easier in the long run. Of course, we don't need to wait until we have the correct concepts in circulation before we start doing community organising. I'm saying all of it, all the time, in as many ways as possible, for as many kinds of audience as possible. All at once, please. Look, I used to roll my eyes at academic type of people who seemed unreasonably bothered about what words we used. But I get it now. Words and concepts in general are incredibly powerful, psychologically, materially, and biologically. And we must not underestimate the fundamental beliefs about existence, metaphysics, and truth that most people probably never even really think about, let alone question. All of which we will have to account for when it comes to changing minds about the rest. And conceptual manipulation is one way to do this. It's so important. Think of concepts such as neurodiversity or LGBTQ+. The words which we used to use before to describe those with different neurology, sexuality, or gender identity, they left out millions of people who now identify with the newer concepts. I shouldn't by now need to explain how important it is that people have language with which they can talk about their identity, talk about their struggles and pains, fight for their rights, and reach out to others. I shouldn't by now need to explain how alienating not having those words and concepts can be. But we still see eyes roll at yet another label. All that is needed for a new concept to be created is for two or more people to agree on its meaning, and then to use it. And if they speak to enough people, these things can spread quickly. Like memes, look at memes. As if I have to tell online leftists to look at memes. The reason why it's good that cis people put their pronouns in their bio is because it normalises a practice. Boba. It's reconceptualising assumptions about gender and language. Same with straight people using the word partner. It normalises not needing to always know what gender someone's lover is. The right understand the importance of language and concepts. And you can see this through the ferocity with which they oppose conceptual change from the left. And they are mega at the old concept manipulation. Me just trying to casually bring back the word mega. That's mega, not maga. As soon as one of their concepts gets too toxic, they just ditch it and make a new one. I'm not saying we should just copy them, but we do need to understand why it keeps working. One way to cement a new concept, a new way of thinking, a new way of perceiving the world, is to repeat it in a variety of ways, as much as possible. Bubba is not being cooperative today. People who study memory loss say that if you have different types of memory about a person or an event, if you have more neurological pathways to the data, then you're less likely to forget. So like if you're keen on always remembering star of ABC's 90s smash hit, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Melissa Joan Hart, then you're not going to want to just think of her as star of ABC's 90s smash hit, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Melissa Joan Hart. You're going to also want to remember her groundbreaking performance as Clarissa in Nickelodeon's Clarissa, to think of her as director of episode 14, season 5 of The Goldbergs, as wife of lead singer of the band Course of Nature, and owner of a candy shop, Sweethearts, which had to close after being sued by staff for racial discrimination. You know how the right and corporate types are always banging on about stories? You gotta tell them a story. It makes sense if you think about it. One technique used by memory whiz kids points to why the memory palace is a memory enhancement strategy, in which you visualize the things you want to remember placed in a familiar space, and then you do like a journey around the space when you're asked to recall the information. It's easier to remember a narrative with all the emotions and imagery that stories trigger than it is to just remember a string of data or facts and logic. The right don't sell facts and logic. The right sell the appeal of the feeling that you're the smartest boy in the room. And while the right like to make up stories about why your life being bad is good, actually, I often find the left feel like they can just be like, we offer you an actually good life and here's the evidence to back this up. And people will be like, oh, okay then. But motivation isn't so simple. One way to weave ideas into a narrative is to describe them in many different ways, and then people will do the weaving themselves. When I'm trying to think about what videos to make, I always go through this period of worry that like someone's already made a video on that. I worry that all my takes must be hot, all my ideas original. But that's rubbish, innit? Just because a thing has been said, that doesn't mean it doesn't need saying more in different ways. Novelty might be entertaining, it might trigger those reward centres, but it doesn't lead to lasting fundamental shifts in consciousness. I'm more than old enough to remember when there was absolutely no left-wing focused media at all. So it's funny and kind of nice actually to see younger people complaining about all these bread tubers and whatnot. If there's so much left-wing content out there that there's this whole bunch that you really don't like, that's probably good. Chapter 2. People of the world, unite. The importance of community organising doesn't exactly go unstated among leftists. I think there's a general understanding that hands-on IRL support and solidarity is the most effective way to bring about lasting change and to bring about needed change to lives directly in real time. Community organising can come in many forms, from unions, local council meetings, single issue action groups, foundations and NGOs, community defence, support and therapy groups, housing and food drives, business and producer co-ops, community gardens and shared spaces, protests and blockades. As an autistic introvert, I'm not the best person to ask about boots on the ground, face-to-face IRL activism, which is why I've left links in the description to people who know a great deal more than I do about community organisation. But even as an autistic introvert, someone who has multiple communication and sensory issues, who is perfectly happy to be left alone for long periods of time, thank you very much, it is still absolutely imperative that I have connections with my comrades and community. It's psychologically and biologically necessary. Remember what I said about stress and body budgets and predictions and health in part 3? Well, we need other people to help us with all that stuff. Other people can help us regulate our body budgets, therefore reducing the risks of the things I outlined. Being with others can literally make pain hurt less. It can motivate and make difficult tasks seem easier, and it can mitigate other negative environmental factors such as living in a stressful environment. Dr. Barrett in her book says that when you lose someone close, you feel like you've lost a part of yourself, because in a sense you have. But you don't need to be physically in the room with someone in order to reap the benefits of social connection. Good news 2021! Studies have suggested that even just having a photograph of your loved one on your desk can bring about some of these benefits. Online friends are real friends. Connections over distances are still connections. However, back to the old personal responsibility argument, if you can, and I accept that some people might not be able to, if you can, it's important to be choosy about the people you surround yourself with. But what about alienation and capitalism? The feeling that you're part of a movement, a team, a cause. It's incredibly powerful and beneficial. It makes us happy, it lifts our spirits, and it motivates us to action. And I feel that the modern Anglosphere left are a bit rubbish at it. I hate to be all, oh, it's like the Judean People's Front. I'm so funny. But it is. And this isn't even really a plea for leftist unity. I don't think that's necessary or really desirable. But it is a plea for solidarity. Remember our favourite word, it has a meaning. We don't need to all think the same thing, do the same method, spout the same theory, join the same union, attend the same protests. We need people doing all of the above, all the time, in as many ways as possible. But we do need to create a sense of belonging. A sense that if you join us, we will accept you. We will protect you, we will be kind to you, even if we don't agree on everything. At the end of the day, the left has an almighty uphill battle to fight. I know for many younger people out there, socialism might seem like a pretty popular idea, but it's not. It really is not. Most people out there, frankly, would view a global socialist, communist, or anarchist uprising as just frightening. Doesn't matter if we have logic and ethics and facts on our side. Nor does it matter that when polled on individual policy, people seem to be keen. We need to show that we can be trusted, and while concept and language manipulation is certainly necessary, it ain't sufficient, chief. And so while there will always be a place for criticism from within any movement, it's crucial praxis to form bonds. To let people feel as though they're a part of something big that's going to make change. And this can be done, yes, in town hall meetings and activist spaces, but it can also be done on an interpersonal level, online and through media. The right do this, as hateful as they seem from the outside. When they've identified the people that they need to win, they love bomb the hell out of them. They make them feel special and important for being racist. Often, especially online, I feel like too much of the left just make people feel bad for not already being leftists. And I'm not saying those online people are the reason the left isn't winning. And I'm not saying love bomb fash, or love bomb anyone really. We shouldn't be disingenuous. But we should make leftist spaces seem like a place that people would want to be a part of. Most people in the world are not wedded to a political ideology. We do not really need to convert, we just need to seem welcoming. That's why in real life organisation does work so well. It shows that leftist groups can be trusted with their well-being. Does a union care about the individual opinions of its members? Does a food bank care about the personal politics of the people it helps? I know it's not popular, this kind of talk. Sounds like I'm trying to humanise the bad people or normalise the bad opinions. I'm talking about being accessible, being welcoming to those who want change and who want to change, even if they might still occasionally make a bad take. The importance of acknowledging how greatly our concepts have been manipulated and that we need to do so much work to put it right. If you see that as a bad thing, which is like normalising fascism, then I think that's some conceptual work that you need to do. There's a balance to be found between being firm in our analyses, strict with our use of concepts and language, united in our shared goals, and being accessible and welcoming to those who haven't had the chance to learn, and accepting of the manipulation and alienation which we are all victim to. Often when this stuff is discussed, there's one side saying that culture war stuff is pandering to right-wing methods and is alienating the working class. And the other side accuses that person of just being a bigot and not caring about the people suffering at the receiving end of the culture. Culture is always something to battle for. Concepts must always be challenged and Marie Kondoed. And that can be alienating to those who don't have time to sit around all day Marie Kondoing their concepts. But that doesn't make them bigoted. However, they might become so if it's the right that seem more welcoming and accepting of them. The only time I have ever changed someone's mind is when I've treated my interlocutor with respect. Not respect for their ideas, which I'm obviously trying to change, but respect for them as a human being living in this alienating society. And respect for the value of each human being is nothing to do with respectability politics or tone policing. Anger and hurtful passion are often the strongest tools that we can use to show how utterly disrespected so many people in society are. There's this phrase I heard somewhere, I can't remember where, but it goes from each according to their ability to each according to their need. I thought it was cool.
I think we should consider this when it comes to thinking about interactions and fighting bigotry. There is a difference between your J.K. Rowlings and your William Shatners of the world and normal working class people who have been fed the opinions of celebrities and established media sources. Marginalised people getting angry with the former is not the same as alienating the latter.
From each according to their ability to each according to their need.
The powerful do not need the vulnerable to educate them as to why they're being bigoted. If J.K. Rowling chose to, she could spend her whole days learning about trans struggles, reading trans literature, and attending lectures by experts in the field. She's able, but chooses not to. Vulnerable groups using social media to express their hurt and frustration towards the power structures which are hurting them is good. However, most people in the world do need some help to understand new concepts. They're not able to attend lectures or read whole books on specific subjects, and so it's good if those who are able to, who do have the emotional energy needed to respectfully explain their position and to educate those who need educating, it's good if they do.
I really hope I'm not going to be misunderstood on this one. It's quite a nuanced argument I'm making here, that we have to be firm in our resolve to not simply accept the capitalist consequences which are foisted upon us, and to use our power as individuals to create and normalise new ones, but to accept that the alienating exploitative conditions within capitalism will necessarily mean that we need to change people's minds and to be welcoming to those not already on side. to learn to identify the difference between manipulative bad actors and the people they're manipulating. And if those we do welcome into our spaces turn out to be bad actors, fashy infiltrators, or just intent on hurting people, then cancel away, turn your backs, boot them out. It's not one thing or the other. It's not, we can't ever stand with anyone who's had a bad opinion, or we must work with absolutely anyone despite their bad opinions. And honestly, if you want to ignore the first 4 parts of this series and accuse me of centrism on that basis, then fine. Individualism is bad. But individuality is something that all leftists should be striving towards. And that by definition means that we will have to take people as we find them. And it's probably good to assume the best first. At least until being proved wrong. Conclusion. The main goal of this series was to show how utterly alienating capitalism is. Not just in the ways traditionally discussed, but in far more intrusive ways that we don't often consider. And I believe I've done this. I then promised to offer some solutions to the problem. And honestly, standard leftist organising principles would go a long way to alleviate it. Like your standard stuff, your decentralisation, your more representation, or more autonomy over one's personal life, not needing to perform for pay or welfare checks. All of this would mitigate the alienation of which I speak quite nicely. And I've offered 2 further ideas. Ideas which, to me, seem to be often pitted against each other as a this or that situation. Number 1, to take seriously our ability to shape human experience and behaviour using concept creation, and to not underestimate the need for this. And 2, to form meaningful connections in as many ways as possible, to treat individuals as the victims of alienation they are, and to breed true camaraderie among everyone who is suffering under capitalism. I hope you weren't looking for the silver bullet, the easy peasy way to stop being alienated under capitalism. If you were, sorry, but thank you anyway for sticking with me through what turned out to be quite an epic series. It's been so much fun, but I am looking forward to moving on to some different topics and standalone videos that don't destroy my channel growth. If you liked this, do a like, and if you really like this, then why not head on over to Patreon, which is where people give me money so that I can keep being a YouTuber. Yeah. Bye! Yeah! We did it! The crowd goes wild. Yeah! Series done, series done. The series done, we series done, series done. High five, Boba. Oh.